Hey, I'm gonna bring on a guest in a second. Just gonna give time for people to come in. Hey, Nicole, I'm gonna bring you on in a second. All right, so before I bring on my guest today, just a little bit of context for what I'm doing here. I published my own book, Vagabondess, A Guide to Solo Female Travel, about 6 months ago. And I spent most of my career as a writer and traveler sharing my experience about my journey as a solo female traveler. And now that I've gone through this process of writing my book and putting it out there, I really want to expand out in a lot of different directions and focus on featuring the voices of other women who are traveling solo in lots of different ways and living their dreams in their ways and share their perspectives and their insights and their inspiration. So that is the impetus for Women Who Vagabond, this interview series, which hopefully will go on to become a podcast soon. Today, I'm so excited to have Nicole Snell on as my guest. So I'm going to introduce her, and then I'm going to bring her on, and we're going to chat for a bit. Nicole is the CEO of Girls Fight Back and a dynamic international speaker, host, and full contact self-defense instructor. She's also a lead instructor for Impact Personal Safety and the creator of Outdoor Defense, an IGTV and YouTube series that provides safety strategies to encourage people to enjoy the outdoors solo. Nicole has traveled to 25 countries on 6 continents and hiked in 15 of them. She believes that when we are empowered to live our lives freely and confidently, there is no limit to what we can do. Nicole is an incredibly inspiring woman for me and everything that she does, and I'm really happy to welcome her on.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing? Thank you for having me today.
I'm so good. How are you?
I am, I just did a monster hike on Saturday and I'm still sore, if you can believe it. But other than that, I'm
I
good.
believe it. Day 2 is always worse.
Yes, that is for sure. How are you?
I'm great. I was surfing this morning, so I'm also pretty beat.
Oh,
I'm trying
wow.
to get back into it.
Nice. I miss surfing. It's a little, well, for the people that can brave the cold waters of California in the winter, it's still surfing season, but I am not a fan of really cold water, so I will wait until it's warmer.
Yeah, it's something I love about Costa Rica. It's always surfing season. Uh, I've been out of it for like 2 years. I'm just trying to get back into it now, and it's been really fun.
That's awesome.
So where were you hiking on Saturday?
So there is a mountain in the San Gabriels called Iron Mountain, and I really didn't know what to expect. I knew it was going to be hard, but it was really a challenge. It's the most difficult is there's so much elevation gain in a short amount of time. It's 6,600 feet of elevation gain in about 7 to 8 miles. So it's like,
Wow.
it's pretty steep. And I went with a friend who's hiked it. This is her 4th time. So she's just like, she does it like every year or two. And then some other friends that she invited, and we all made it and we all made it back. But it was, for me, it was harder coming down than it was going up because it was so steep, you know. It
Yeah,
was
of course.
I'm good. I made it.
Here you are.
Yeah.
Nicole, I'd love for you to share more about outdoor defense because I think that's such a necessary project, and Girls Fight Back, whichever you want to start with, because they're both such necessary projects.
Oh, well, thank you. I'll start with Girls Fight Back because of Girls Fight Back, there's an outdoor defense.
Perfect.
I started with Girls Fight Back in 2014 is when I found out about the company, and I was just blown away by what they did and that you could go and travel to colleges around the country and teach self-defense to women. was amazing. So I emailed them and I asked them for a job. And about 3 months later, they had a job opening. So I got trained. Part of my training was to take and graduate from a 20-hour full contact class with Impact. And after taking that, I wanted to teach Impact as well. So I became an assistant for Impact, and I became a speaker for Girls Fight Back. And I spoke and traveled all around the world for about 6 years with Girls Fight Back. And then this year I had the opportunity to purchase the company, and I took the opportunity because I had already been living and breathing the content and the mission for 6 years, and I just believed in it so much that I knew that I could continue the work and really continue to try to make a difference. So I went forward and did that this year, which was scary because we're in a pandemic. But I did that, and I started outdoor defense last year, and it was part of because I love self-defense so much, and I love traveling, and I solo travel a lot too, which is how you and I connected. And I love adventuring, and I often hike solo. I hike solo at night. I do all these things by myself, and people would always tell me, oh, it's not safe, and it's not safe for women. And I don't ever listen to those messages. I'm going to do what I want to do, and no one's going to let anyone else's fear projected onto me stop me from doing what I want to do. And so I had been kind of wanting to combine self-defense and outdoor stuff for a while, and I had friends and family for like a couple years to combine them. And I was like, no, I don't know if it fits. I feel like it has to be two separate things. And then finally I had a friend that just gave me the final kick of motivation. She's like, you just need to do it. Like, just stop thinking about it and just do it. And I was like, okay, you're right. I'm just going to do it. And it resonated with people in a way that I didn't quite expect. I didn't quite expect people to feel like it was as needed as it was in the community. And the fact that I can bring this to people who maybe were thinking about going on a solo adventure and then talking themselves out of it, or someone else talking them out of it, and being able to give them strategies and tools that they can use, that way they can feel confident going and doing what they want, that is powerful. To get the messages from people like, hey, I did my first hike, or I'm planning my first hike and I wasn't going to do it until I saw your series and now I'm going to do it, like, that means the world to me.
And I see so many parallels between sort of the fears that stop people from solo traveling and the fears that stop people from going out into nature alone or doing anything outdoors alone. Do you feel like it's the same, people need more or less the same tools or the same confidence to do either?
I think so. I think that there's just a lot of messaging out there that tries to keep women afraid. You know, it's like there's a lot of course, there's a lot of bad things in the world, right? We can't walk around and pretend that violence doesn't exist, because it does. But that also doesn't mean we have to stop living our lives. And to think that we are somehow more in danger by going on a solo hike or going on a solo trip than we would be in our own neighborhood is a fallacy, because you and I both know the majority of violence happens between people you know. So it's less likely to be that stranger you meet on the trip and more likely to be maybe your trip companion or something that happens at home. I mean, I don't know about you, Toby, but like, in the quarter-mile walk from my apartment to the post office, I have had more situations. I've been followed, I've been catcalled, I've been harassed, I've been yelled at in my neighborhood. And there have been very few incidents that I've experienced while traveling or on a trail. And I think we just need to break through that myth and not outright limit ourselves based on a fear that may not necessarily be the most likely scenario you'll face. Still be prepared for it, but not live in that fear state.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, I 100% agree with you. I'm curious I mean, everything you're doing is a solution, but what else can we do day to day to start to unwrite that myth or create new narratives about women's safety and solo adventure?
Oh man, I think a lot of it is there's just so much. That's really a hard question, because there's so much that's just kind of ingrained in our society, like things we say that we may not necessarily think about. We just kind of say it. And I feel like we just have to make a conscious effort of asking ourselves before we tell someone, oh, well, be safe, or, oh, that's not safe, or make sure you're careful. Like, would we say that to a man? Would we say that to someone who presents differently? Or are we saying it because we believe that as women are helpless? And we're not helpless at all. And I think it's a matter of just changing the conversation and changing how we how we talk about things.
Absolutely. So what's like a fundamental tool or tip for a woman who, or person who wants to either travel solo or get outside solo and is feeling some fear or feeling like safety is a barrier to them? What can they do?
Oh man, I always give this answer, but I feel like it's the most truthful answer is I say your intuition. Like really get in the habit of listening to it and trusting it. That is your number one tool. I was on a hike recently. There's a hike kind of in the neighborhood around the houses, kind of like a mile from where I live. So I walk there and then I like do the little loop. And there's not a lot of people around, but there's houses around. It's not in the middle of nowhere. And I was on that hike one day and for some reason I just looked ahead to the trail and I was like, something doesn't feel right. And I turned around and I went home because I said, this trail will be here tomorrow. If I want to come back tomorrow, I'll go down and do a different loop or just do something else so I'm still getting my exercise. But trust that feeling, don't buy into that you are not capable of protecting yourself or that you're not capable of recognizing danger. And one of the first ways we can recognize danger is by using our intuition.
Absolutely. And I love that story because when people think about stories of using self-defense methods, they immediately, of course, the brain jumps to using physical techniques. Right, right. And sometimes, sure, but so many stories are that, like, I had a bad feeling about this place or this person and I left.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a great conclusion to the story. Like, that's the ideal one.
Yeah, like what do we say? I think ESD says this too, but when Girls Fight Back, we say this, that the best fight is the one you don't have to fight. If I get out of it, that's that's a win. And here's the thing, I did a podcast with I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say the name of the podcast yet, but I did one, it's coming out. But one of the things that I had mentioned was that self-defense isn't just physical. And I remember the host was like, I've never thought of it like that. I've always just thought of it as physical techniques. And I said, yeah, but that's not what we use every day. Like the times that I have had run-ins or cat calls or people crossing my boundaries, I didn't immediately go and heel palm them in the face. I may have wanted to, but I didn't. That's not the first thing that I did. It's all the other things that we do every day of our life to keep ourselves safe.
Yeah, that's as a self-defense instructor, when people ask me if I use the techniques, that's my main answer is, the boundary setting, the verbal strategies for keeping myself safe every single day.
Yeah. Every day.
So, Nicole, I want to go in a little bit of a different direction because I really want to ask you also about your experience as a woman of color traveling solo and doing outdoor adventuring solo. Because I know there's like a whole nother set of barriers to that, and I'd love for you to share a little bit about your experience.
Yeah, so I've never let anything stop me. So I've never let someone's like side comment or microaggression or, outright rudeness stop me from traveling. And as a Black woman who does things that some people think that's not what Black people do, sometimes I get the side eyes, the looks, people will like tease you for it. And I'm going to do what I love to do. And that's just the end of it. So when I solo travel, I know there's been so many times, you go on a trip and you're there, you're like waiting in line for like the tour, or you're like going to do like, I was in St. Martin and I was doing like a jet ski tour around the island. And there's all these couples, these male, female couples all together, like maybe a group of friends, two women as friends or two men as friends. And I'm just there. And like the tour guide comes like, all right, well, where's your partner? I'm like, it's just me. It's just me. They're like, oh. But aren't you afraid? And wait, aren't you, like, people just lose their minds, it seems like, when you tell them that you're there by yourself. And so I just let it roll off my back. Like, I know I'm not alone. No, I'm not afraid. I always meet people when I'm traveling, so I don't feel like you may go there alone, but wouldn't you agree? Like, you go there alone, but you make friends at the hostel, with the tour groups, at a restaurant if you're eating by yourself. You're meeting people all the time. You're never really alone.
You have to try hard, actually, as a solo traveler, especially a solo female traveler, I think, to actually have any alone time because there's always someone who wants to make conversation. There are always friends and groups of friends that you can join.
Yeah.
join to tour around. So it's actually really hard to get any solo time as a solo traveler.
It really is. And I've had gosh, I had an experience one time. Oh, I forgot all about this. I think I was in Singapore and I was taking a picture at the Merlion. The Merlion is like the like not I don't want to say mascot. I feel like that's a disrespectful way of referring to it, but it's like the symbol of Singapore. It looks like hold on, I have a because we were there on a military base. So it's like this is a merlion. So it's like a lion and a like with a fishy tail. Okay. So they had like a statue of this in Singapore. And there was a tour bus of tourists. I believe they were Chinese tourists. And I had my hair in braids. And I was standing next to the merlion and someone comes and stands next to me, just puts their arm around me before COVID, obviously, puts their arm around me and like points at this camera and they take a picture. And then someone else runs up. I had a queue of people lined up to take pictures with me. And they just, I guess it was because my hair, because like some of them were like pointing to my hair and they just, maybe they hadn't seen that hairstyle before. And all throughout the different places I'd been in Singapore, people, how long does it take you to do your hair? Is that your real hair? Like just so many questions about my hair. And as a Black woman, like hair is really important to us and how we wear it, whether we wear it natural, whether we wear it in braids, whether we, what other kind of protective styles that we do with it, when we wear wigs, all the different things that we do for our hair is part of our culture. So on the one hand, it was really kind of cool that they were just so fascinated by that. But at the other hand, I felt kind of like othered, like, oh, now I stand out and now everyone's kind of looking at me and now I'm different. And now it's kind of like all this unwanted attention. But I had a queue of people taking pictures of me. And then I was like, okay, I gotta go. And then I went up to another section and then like some people like followed me, oh no, picture. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just need to get out of here. So I don't feel like I've ever had any really like outright negative experiences, but I definitely have had, experiences like that where, you stand out and people looking at you like you're different and maybe giving you more attention than you would want or pointing out things about you that are different. Or, the microaggressions that you hear, oh, I didn't know your people did this, or I didn't know you did this. And, it's frustrating and there's not really one perfect way to handle it. I just chalk it up to, hey, you know what? I'm out here making a difference because they're going to see me. And then the more people that I can empower to get out here and do this, the more Black women that are getting out there and doing this, then we won't be seen as like an anomaly anymore. It'll be normal.
And I think something really inspiring about your perspective, Nicole, is just like whatever you want to do, you have this perspective of, well, this is what I like, this is what I want to do, so I'm going to do it. And you have an online presence and you have a lot of people who follow you and see you doing what you like to do and see you just sort of living your life as you want to live it. And I think just that has a huge impact.
Oh, well, thank you. I just love what I love. I for the longest time, I didn't even have an Instagram because I'm a very private person and I'm like, well, I do these things, but no one needs to know that I'm doing these things. And then like 5 years ago or so, someone was like, you just need to get on Instagram. And I was like, all right, and then I started posting and then it was like, oh, people actually like to see these random things that I'm doing. Like, okay, well, I guess I'll just keep sharing them and maybe it'll encourage someone to do something that they never thought that they wanted to do or never thought that they could do.
And it sounds like you've had a lot of a really positive response on your outdoor defense series, for example.
There's certain topics, like my topic that I talked about, catcalling, got a lot of responses. And it's just, I talk about things that I feel like people want to hear about or things that people have asked me about or commented about. And then I'll just kind of make a little video about that. Or one time I was, just this past August, I was doing a 13-mile solo hike in near Mammoth. And it's pretty remote. And I was walking along this river bed after like climbing over this like big ridge, and I was walking, not river, it was a lake. And I was walking and I was saying to myself, I was like, you know what? There is nobody around. I haven't seen anyone for like a mile or two. And I was like, what? This is the situation where people feel like, well, what if something happens? And then I made a what if video out there because the idea of like, well, what if something happens? Well, you have options. Like,
first of all, what are the chances that someone would hike all the way out there just to hope that they would run into someone walking by themselves? You know, there's that. But then also, if they did, like, okay, you really want to mess with me? Well, I'm going to make you regret it. And it's that confidence that I have that I want other people to have, to know, like, you don't have to be afraid. Like, you can do it.
Can you share a little bit about the catcalling video? Because I know that's another thing that women face at home and abroad. It's just such a common experience, and it's something that really prevents a lot of people from going out into a city alone because they just don't want to deal with that. What are some strategies that you suggest?
Oh, well, the one that I suggest in the video, well, first off, I say in the video, there's like no perfect response because it's really going to depend on who you are, where you are, and how comfortable you feel. Like, trust your intuition. There's times when I've not said a word back and just walked away and ignored it. There's been times when I've said something back and because I felt safe doing it. It really just depends. Trust your intuition on what you choose to do. But one thing that I like to do is to call out the behavior and ask questions. So someone says something inappropriate and I go, excuse me, can you repeat that? Can you say that again? I don't know what you mean by that. Wait, what does that mean? And just make them say it and like make them explain to you what they mean. And that usually is enough to get them like, or I was just recently walking to the post office and some guy at the bus stop was like, yeah, I'd like to touch that to me. And I turned to him and I said, don't you ever speak to me like that again. That is completely inappropriate. Stop. And he didn't say anything else. And I felt good. I said that kind of as I was walking past him. I like slowed down, looked at him and said what I needed to say and then kept walking. And I felt confident enough to do that. So it really just depends on your situation. But I like the strategy of calling it out, asking a question, or just saying that's not appropriate. That's harassment. Stop.
Naming it. Yeah. I feel like we're circling around something really important along the lines of empowerment and what it means to feel empowered, because we keep coming back to these themes of following your intuition, doing what feels right in the moment, and doing what feels safe and empowering to you in any given moment. So how do you define empowerment, or what does it mean to you to feel empowered?
For me to feel empowered, I feel like I can do what I want to do and go where I need to go and know that I can handle myself regardless of the situation. Like just that confidence of just like, I'm gonna do what I want to do and no one can stop me. Nothing can stop me.
Yes. Yeah, I resonate with that a lot, that sentiment and that confidence. And that was something that really struck me the first time we chatted. It was just like, oh, here's someone who like definitely is on the same wavelength as a solo traveler and a solo adventurer.
Yeah, I love it. You know, COVID has taken a toll on everyone in many different ways, and people have lost loved ones and jobs and homes, and there's just been a lot in the last year. And I feel selfish to say this, but I feel like it's the truth. It's just that I really do miss traveling. I really do miss getting out there and meeting new people and having, you know, new experiences in different countries and different places. And I look forward to being able to do that again. I feel like traveling because it is, you know, and it is a great privilege to be able to travel. There's a lot of people who simply do not have the means to be able to do that. And that's something else I want to work on changing. But when you only are hearing or seeing one perspective of the country that you're in or the state you're in or the city that even that you're in, when you can get out and experience how other people live, other just gives you more perspective on the world. It gives you more empathy. It gives you more, I'm just circling around saying the same thing over and over, but it's just, I feel like it's so important to be able to go out and have those experiences.
I completely agree, of course. We're about out of time, so before we close, is there any other advice you would give to a woman wanting to travel solo, or really any person wanting to, who feels that call, feels that desire to have those experiences and doesn't know how to start or where to start? What advice would you give them?
I would say first, take a self-defense class. That will help with your confidence in ways that I can't even express. And that's something that you can take with you throughout your life. Like, that's an investment in your future, a self-defense class. I would say take a self-defense class. And I would say go and read up on some blogs. There are so many support groups for solo female travelers, women travelers, that talk about, maybe your first time out, if you're feeling kind of uncomfortable, maybe here's a place that everyone recommends that is a place that would be great for a first timer to go. And then just basic kind of safety, like safety planning, like before you go on any trip, you should always make sure you have a copy of your passport with you in a place separate from your actual passport in case it gets lost or stolen. Make sure that someone knows where you are and they have the contact number in case there's an accident or an emergency when you're abroad. Make sure that you have money in the correct currency that you can change into. Avoid wearing, super flashy things. Kind of the same, advice we give to people just within any big city. You want to avoid wearing something really flashy, really expensive jewelry. You don't want to be targeted as a tourist or someone who doesn't know where they're going. I always give the advice of, if you're traveling and you're not sure where you are, try to avoid like pulling out your map in the middle of the street. Like go, or your phone, like maybe go into somewhere where it's not as obvious that you're a tourist, just because someone might take that and assume that, oh, you're a tourist, now you're vulnerable. Not necessarily that you are, but it's just one way that you can maybe avoid eyes that may be looking at you in that way. And just owning your boundaries. It's okay to say no. And sometimes in other countries, you've been to Italy before, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So sometimes, I don't know if my video is freezing, but sometimes your video is freezing just a little bit.
Yeah, I'm seeing it the reverse.
Okay. Yeah. I was in Italy and the person that we were meeting us there that was kind of leading us around, it was from Italy. And they were saying, yeah, so if men in Italy, approach you and try to talk to you, here you just say no very assertively and they understand that and they'll leave you alone. And I was like, oh really? Because in the US, if you do that, sometimes you get a whole slew of back talk and whatever. But in Italy, apparently, at least in the place we were, they were like, this is a very common thing where you're just very assertive with your no, and they understand that and they'll just go and talk to somebody else. And for me, I was like, oh, that's kind of freeing to just know I can just say that and be done with it. So it's different where you are. So it's good to learn the customs of where you are, not just with that, but everything. I went to Thailand and there's a lot of rules about the, how to be respectful in the temples and such. Mm-hmm. Just doing your research in advance is just really helpful. And with more information is power.
Absolutely. The map thing makes me laugh because everywhere I've gone, I have like my ways. I don't use printed maps so much anymore, but I used to have like my whole way of folding the map so that I could have just a little section that I needed to see without opening it up ever.
Yes.
But it's true. It's not just not looking like a tourist, but it's having that sort of confidence in putting off that vibe of I know where I'm going and don't mess with me is really powerful wherever you are.
Exactly. And again, trusting your intuition. There are scams where people will try to be super friendly and use those, charming tools of manipulation. Like, oh, you look like you're lost. My friend runs a tour company. Come with me. I'll show you. And it's like, if you're not asking, don't accept unsolicited help because it's probably too good to be true, especially if your intuition's telling you it's off. Go ask somebody else for help. If you ask them for help, it's different than if someone's just like, oh, you look lost. Let me help you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nicole, thank you so much for your time today and for coming on to chat. It was great to connect again, and I love hearing about your work and your perspective always.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This has been lovely. It's nice to see you, quote unquote, see you and to chat about this. It's so important. And I hope that we can inspire women to get out there and just do the things they love.
That's the goal. And hopefully I'll get to have you on again when I turn this into a podcast.
I would love that. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.